Yeah, I think when you're a kid, you grow up and you realize, oh, I want to be Zeppelin. I want to be the Beatles. I want to be, I want to have that kind of thing. But ever since I've been 18, I've been a professional musician. I haven't had to work a real job in my life.
And as soon as I saw it, I realized, oh my God, this is the oldest Ouija board I've ever seen come out of the UK.
One click on the web, you can have access to this music, that's great. But the fact that it means less because we are not sharing it with a shared community, that's a loss.
There used to be this guy called the Unknown Critic. And at the end, after the credits of a movie on a rental, he would do he would just tape on right onto the videotape his review of that film.
Welcome to Starfish and Coffee this week. My name is Sean Smith, and my esteemed guest is none other than Alex Smith, although I'm guessing plenty of people might know you by different names.
They do. Hello, everybody, and hello, Sean. Thank you very much for having me here. Yes, I do. This is how I have to introduce myself in every situation.
Depends what you're reading, right?
Yeah, exactly. It does very much depend what you're reading. But my parents, in all their wisdom, 44 years ago, decided to call me Alexander Gordon Smith. But they gave me the name Gordon, and they did that. So they said so that my name wouldn't be. If they called me Gordon Alexander Smith, my initials would have been Gas. Everyone at school would have been, been mean to me. They would call me Gassy Gordon. So they decided they'd call me Alexander Gordon Smith, but give me my middle name.
I like the way that your parents had already decided the shitty nickname.
Yeah, exactly.
Even before you'd gone to school.
Exactly. And the irony was, I went to school. I was Alexander Gordon Smith. I went by Gordon, and they called me Gassy Gordon anyway, but just for a different reason, I guess.
After your parents had sent them all a letter.
That's right. Please do not call our son Gassy Gordon.
Oh, that's brilliant. We'll have that.
But it has been handy, because I do write for children and teenagers as Alexander Gordon Smith. And for adults as Alex Smith. I was just going to go with Gordon Smith, but apparently there is a psychic hairdresser who writes books under the name Gordon Smith.
I got to write this down.
I've Googled him, and yes, he does seem... Yeah, I've seen his name around, but I didn't want to be confused with a psychic hairdresser, mainly because I can't talk to ghosts or cut hair. So it would have been completely pointless.
Yeah, cutting hair we don't do on this. No. We don't do that around here. Now, listen, I'm a big reader, and I can't remember what I was reading, but I saw a copy of, I didn't see a copy, obviously. I saw it online, the cover of Paper Girls.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And I stopped and I went, Paper Boys? I get that, but Paper Girls, that's quite weird.
Yeah, yeah.
Had a little dig. Okay, that sounds good. Norwich, different. Dived in, loved it. Next one. And after about, what's your third? I can't remember sorry, let me backtrack.
Three Little Pigs.
Okay, let me backtrack for people. The books that I have been shoveling down my face of yours feature Robbie Kett, who is a DCI in Norwich.
Yeah.
So I hit about book 3, and I have been a first day reader ever since.
Oh.
And I can't say that about an awful lot of people that I read, although I am quite loyal, to be fair. Fantastic stuff. Really, really good stuff.
So thank you.
So to get an angle on this, what is your reading background? What did you grow up reading?
I grew up reading horror mainly. I was, when I was a kid, there wasn't really that middle ground between kids' books and adult books. So I went straight from reading kind of like The Secret Seven to reading Stephen King. And in fact, I was more interested in, those old pan books of horror stories, which have got all the classic old kind of M.R. James, and authors like that, all these really creepy, uncanny sort of Victorian stories, and from then onwards. And I was addicted to them, and I used to read them all the time. And they're great because they're almost a cross between horror and crime, because a lot of them have got a crime as a kind of just to get the story started, and then you realize later on that it's got kind of an uncanny sort of reason behind it. But yeah, I grew up on those kind of stories, and I went from them to Sherlock Holmes when I was kind of in my late teens, and then straight on to to the big guns, really. It's Stephen King, Clive Barker, addicted to everything that Clive Barker did, James Herbert. So yeah, my background is very much in horror.
It's very much exactly the same as mine.
Ah, that's interesting.
Clive Barker's a weird one, isn't he? Because I got hooked, and I still proclaim Imagica to be the best book ever written.
Yeah, it's really rare. I'm exactly the same. It's really rare that you meet someone who says that's his best book. But I think absolutely, it's a pie apart. And it's been many, many years since I've read it. But just the character that stuck with me for years and years and years.
I've only read it once.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it can take another reading.
No. Do you know, it's funny.
I'd lose the magic.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. Because I started to read a few of his again a few years ago and very quickly thought, actually, I don't want to do it because they're brilliant books. I don't ever want to deny how good they are. But I think that magic, like exactly that word you used, comes from when you read them maybe at a younger age and and it's just an explosion of imagination that you're not used to. And for me, it was just everything I needed when I was that age. And now that I'm a bit older, it wouldn't have that same effect. Yeah,
that's a good description. It's reading Clive Barker's kind of like taking psychedelics for the first.
It is, yeah.
What? And it doesn't take any prisoners. It's long and it's drawn out, but you can't leave.
No,
until you're finished.
No, it is a world that you're pulled into. Yeah,
I wish he would. I'll be wishing in the wind, but I think the good days are behind us now for Clive.
Yeah. And it's such a shame because he had the Abarat series for younger readers, which I loved, and he did the first two of those, and I don't think he's done the third one. And there was the other, there was the trilogy, The Great and Secret Show, I think, which was going to be part of a trilogy. Was that right? And he never got around to doing the last one.
The Book of the Art.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And then there was also, I think on the frontispiece in Galilee, it says the first of a 2-part story. Like, dude.
No, don't think he ever got
finish up this stuff.
No. And I read, I don't know if it was the last one he did, but Mr. Be Gone. And it didn't feel like the Clive Barker that I knew and loved. I think maybe, yeah, like you say, I don't know whether he's just kind of relaxing now. He's maybe a bit old. Maybe he's felt like he's done his time. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like those early books, nothing can beat them for me.
No. And as a last word on Clive Barker, have you ever been to his website?
Not recently. I think maybe 20 years ago when he was first starting with
the most confusing, illogical. It's like, no, it's go and have a look.
I'll have to. Maybe that's a story in itself, the Clive Barker. Maybe it pulls you in and doesn't let you go.
It's just weird. It's like talking to 100 people all at the same time about the same thing.
Maybe that's a glimpse inside his head.
So you read the same kind of things as me, good. And then at some point you decide to write.
Yeah.
This is aside from the book that you wrote when you were 6.
That's right. I was about to say I did start very early on with my little book of monsters, which I wrote when I was 6, which was just pictures of monsters and their names. And they had names like the Poop.
Hang on. Ricky Gervais made a fortune out of such a thing.
I know. When that Flanimals came out, I was like, hang on a minute. Has he been crawling around under my bed? I think that says more about Ricky Gervais's literary qualities than it does about anything else. But as much as, I admire him as a comedian. But yeah, no, I am... It's the only thing I've ever wanted to do. So even when I was 6 years old, I kind of understood that I wanted to be a writer. And all writers say that. I think it's true in a lot of cases that you learn very early on that you want to tell stories and that you can entertain people through stories. And yeah, so I wrote my first one when I was 6 and I just kept writing. And all through my teenage years, I used to write stories. I used to get in trouble all the time at school because I would sit and write stories at school. I remember once, I must have been about 13, we got set a piece of homework and it was to write a story, 2 pages of A4, just to show you had a grasp of beginning, middle and end. And I went home and I wrote, I think it was about 40 pages. And I typed it because I had an old typewriter at home. It was a 40-page, it felt like a novel for me at the time. And it was about a serial killer that murdered all of my teachers. And I used all their real names and they got murdered in, relative to how they taught and what they taught. I handed this in, and I got in a lot of trouble. I had to go and see the head of year in my school. They were kind of probing me with questions about whether I was actually a serial killer. I was like, no, I just love telling stories. My English teacher did give me an A for it in the end. So
Hey, I can match that, because in my English class, we got the very same task to write a story, and I wrote a sex comedy. It wasn't highly sex, but it was more like a bedroom farce.
Oh, yeah.
Because I figured if I can make them laugh, I'm on a winner.
Yeah.
So I did that, and she ripped it out of my exercise book, and I also had to go and see the head of year. But from what I recall, said story got passed around the staff room.
That's amazing.
So I put that in the win column. My parents never found out, so that's 2 wins.
That's brilliant.
It's true,
isn't it? If you can make them laugh or make them scared, you've got them.
Yeah, you just got to do something that the others. I mean, you can imagine, can't you, being an English teacher or an examiner, and you're like,
yeah.
This is
the same stuff. Yeah.
I mean, you could just take. I think I took a plot from a book I was reading and changed the names and just rewrote it in my own. Which is what we all do, right?
Oh, well, yeah, that's writing, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, what's your first proper? How did there come a point where you went, now I am a writer?
Well, it was.
Are you still working on it?
Yeah, it's funny because I do call myself a writer rather than an author, because I feel like writers have always got something they need to learn. And I feel like I'm learning all the time. I don't think I'll ever write. I don't think anyone ever writes a perfect book, actually. But I do. I call myself a writer, and I think so. I wrote my first full-length novel when I was 18. I actually failed my A-levels because I was writing this book. It was called Asylum, and it was called Asylum because it was set in a kind of a hospital, and it was about angels that ate people. I mean, it was this incredible gore fest that was kind of, it was just all the horror novels I loved. I pushed into this, and I thought it was brilliant because obviously I was 18. I was like, this precocious 18-year-old, and I thought this is amazing. This is going to make me a millionaire. And I sent it to 3 agents, and they all turned it down. And I quit writing for 6 years. It's like, well, fine, they don't deserve me. Well, it wasn't. It was more like I've completely failed at this. Obviously, no one ever wants to read any book I've ever. I had a complete kind of panic attack about the whole thing. Didn't write very much at all for 6 years, and then it was about a few years later. I think I was 25, and I had a little brother called Jamie, who was 9 at the time, and it was the summer holidays, and he said, can you show me how to write a book, or can we write a book together? And I said, actually, that's a really nice idea. And I missed writing, and I thought this would be a great way to get back into it. So we sat down and we wrote a book called The Inventors. And well, I say we wrote the book. We wrote the first 3 chapters, which was about 11,000 words. And then we kind of forgot about it. We did a lot of the inventions. We built a lot of things. We had a lot of fun getting into the minds of the characters. And we treated it like a big experiment. And on the last, I think it was towards the last few days of the holiday, my little brother spotted a newsletter in Waterstones that said, competition, are you the next J.K. Rowling? That was the words they used. Submit your story. Yeah. And Jamie said, can we submit the 3 chapters we've done? And I said, there's no point. There's absolutely no point, And he was quite insistent. So I said, fine, let's do it. But who knows what'll happen? So we submitted it. And then it was about 3 months later, we got a phone call from Waterstones saying, you've been shortlisted. Your novel, this novel that you've written, The Inventors, is one of 12 books on the shortlist to be published. That was the deal, getting published. And I was flabbergasted. And I said, that's amazing. And the woman on the phone, Mel, I'll never forget her saying this, said, so if you send us the rest of the book today, we'll make sure we get all that sorted. And I said, today? I said, we didn't finish it. We've only written the first 3 chapters. And she said, oh, well, sorry, that was in the small print. You have to send us a finished novel in order to be shortlisted. And she said, well, we announced the shortlist in a week. Can you write the rest of the book in a week? I said, of course I can't write a book in a week. That's impossible.
You fool.
Yeah, basically. And she said, well, give it a go. If not, we'll have to pick someone else. And I put the phone down and I thought, my God, this is what I've been waiting for my whole life. This is an opportunity to get published. So Jamie and I had, fortunately, we'd come up with so many ideas for this book. It was all inside my head. I knew the whole thing. So I sat down and I wrote 11,000 words a day for 7 days straight. and finished this book. It was like 100 and something thousand words in the end. Middle grade novel, sent it in. We waited a few more weeks and we got a phone call back, and Waterstone said, no, sorry, you didn't win. but a few days after that, Faber, the publishing company, rang and said, we love your book. We're going to publish it anyway. And I said, that's amazing. So my first success was with that, with The Inventors. And it came out with my name on and my little brother's name on. We wrote, we had both our pictures on the inside. And honestly, still one of the best days of my life.
Did you heavily edit the
there were a
1,000 words a day that you did really quickly?
There was a lot of editing, yeah. Not as much as I thought, actually. There were things like, there was an amazing line that one of the characters was supposed to say, he shot across the room, because a big robot loomed up in front of him, and instead it said he shit across the room, which would have worked in context. But things like that, obviously, terrible typo. But things like that were edited out. But yeah, surprisingly little, and it taught me a lot about how I like to write a book. So I don't plan at all. I'm like you. I don't plan. I keep everything in my head.
You turn up, see what the characters want to do.
Exactly. And I feel like if you know what's going to happen, they know what's going to happen, and suddenly they're just like, they either know they're going to die or they know they're going to succeed, and it feels like they kind of just relax a bit. But writing at that speed and not knowing what's going to happen, it keeps you on the edge of the story, and it really just feels like you're driving that story forward just so you can find out what happens.
Well, that's one of my questions, is about your speed, which is pretty hardcore.
It is.
You put in 3 Kett books out a year?
Yeah, 3 a year. It was originally 4, but that nearly killed me.
Because you also have all the other things on the go as well.
I do, although they've definitely taken a backseat to Kett.
Right.
So there's a few reasons why they come out so quickly. As a rule, I think indie crime writers pump out books far more quickly than traditional crime writers. So a traditional publisher, if you'd gone up to them and said, I want to release 3 books a year, they'd have shot you down. They just said, no way. We build up 1 book a year, 1 book every 18 months. And when we build on that, we kind of promote it. We try and get people excited for the next one. Whereas common sense would say, actually, if you want to get people excited for the next one, release the next one while the first one's still fresh in their mind. And I'm part of a stable of kind of indie authors. By no means a trailblazer. I'm very much kind of, sort of following in this amazing trail of people like J.D. Kirk, who's Barry Hutchison, who's a good friend of mine, and Dave Gatwood. We all started with Barry started first, but we all kind of releasing at about the same sort of speed, because actually that's what readers want. We found that that's what people really want, is they want the next book as quickly as possible. It's like episodes of a TV show. It's brilliant because it gives you that excuse. As soon as you finish one book, you can move straight on with the next one, which you don't normally get to do in kind of other areas of publishing.
No, it's good. I mean, and that's exactly what I do. I mean, I'll finish yours in what? How long does it take to read a book? 2 days?
2 days, yeah. They're not long. Yeah.
If you're hardcore with it.
Yeah.
And then I might strike lucky and Mr. Kirk will have dropped one out. And who else am I reading? I can't remember. Oh, who's the guy that writes the grim novels?
Oh, yeah, that's Dave Gatwood. Yeah, right, yeah. Okay, yeah. So Barry, Dave, and I, we talk every day. We've got a WhatsApp group that we chat on every day, and we're constantly kind of bouncing ideas around and talking about the next books and talking about this phenomenon that's because no doubt about it. I mean, Logan for Barry and Grimm for Dave and Kett for me, it's completely changed our lives. I mean, independent publishing has revolutionized the way that we work.
Has it? How can I put this nicely without not nicely. That wasn't going to be horrible. How can I put this without asking you to put an actual figure on it?
Yeah.
But I assume from you being able to write full time and having 3 kids, and the other guys being in kind of the same position, that you're doing okay.
I mean, absolutely. I've never been this happy in my life. So, I mean, to go back to traditional publishing, just to set the context, it's very, very different. So when you write a traditional book, so just take The Inventors for my first ever book. So I wrote that book and Faber offered me £5,000 for it. And that was amazing. First thing I did when I got that was I quit my job. And then I realized that they were paying me £5,000 over 18 months. So they sent me a check for like something like £1,600, and I thought, oh, this is to last me 6 months. This isn't going to work. And so that was actually a fairly generous advance for a first book. And then they offered me the same from a second book, and they offered me the same from a third book. And by that point, I was starting to think, well, hang on a minute, does this ever kind of get any better?
You're now earning a grand total of what's that? About £400 a month.
Yeah, it was basically something like that, if that, because obviously some goes to your agent and some goes to marketing, and so it's not enough to live on. And I remember speaking to them, and I didn't have an agent then, but I wrote this new series, Escape from Furnace, which was like a prison series for teenagers, and they offered me. I think they offered me $6,000 for that. And I thought, So I spoke to an agent who was a friend of the family, and I said, I've written this book. She read it. She loved it. She went into Faber's office and I kid you not, she came back out and she'd got me a £60,000 deal for 3 books. And I thought, and weirdly, Faber, and I really enjoyed working with Faber, and I haven't got a bad word to say about them. But my editor, when I was speaking to her, she said, oh, yeah, we knew it was worth that much. And what she was driving at was, we knew it was a good book. We wanted to pay you money for it. But what she was really saying is, we knew it was worth that much, but we didn't want to pay it. And I think and this might be a bit cynical, but I think with most authors are away with the fairies, myself included. We don't have a clue about money.
Yeah.
So when someone offers you any kind of money to publish your book, it's a bonus, because really what you want. And I said to Faber when I first went in, I said, oh, you could have this for peanuts. You would have had to pay me peanuts, because the book is the important thing. And I think it's such a mistake, because I think publishers do know actually that publishers will work for a small fee, because the dream is publishing the book. And I think this is partly why they say the average earnings for a traditionally published author are sort of £11,000 a year, when actually these authors are producing amazing books that these publishers are selling. So where's, there's some kind of discrepancy there with Amazon. And, I'm not saying Amazon is a perfect company. They're not a perfect company in lots of ways. But their publishing model is amazing, because they let they just open it up. They're a shop front. They say, put your book here. We will send it to as many readers as you like. So you upload your book, and suddenly you've got literally millions of people reading your book.
Now, the last time I looked into it, if you eliminate Apple Books from your radar and are exclusive to Kindle,
yeah,
I believe the royalty rate's 70%.
It is, yeah. So
which is about 69% more,
yeah,
than you are going to get from even HarperCollins.
Yeah,
Clive Barker, right?
No, you're absolutely right. My traditional publishing deals, I think it's 10% I get on a hardback and 7% on a paperback, and that's after the bookshop has taken their
half.
Yeah, half, exactly, yeah. So you're looking at 10, 20 pence a book with Amazon, and that's for maybe a book that sells for $7.99. So the reader's paying a lot for that book. Bookshop's getting some money from that book. The author's not getting very much money at all from that book. But with Amazon, it's brilliant, because you sell your books. So I sell mine for $2.99. So you get a book for £3. I get £2 out of that. It's fun. The difference is astronomical when you look at that, and when it builds up. And you also, if you're exclusive, so you don't have to be exclusive to Amazon to sell a book, but you do have to be exclusive to Amazon if you want to enroll in their Kindle Unlimited.
Yeah,
which I do, and I think every author does, because that means you get paid every time someone turns a page in your book on their Kindle. You get paid something like 0.0004 pence. I'd have to check that. But again, it adds up. And it's not about the money. I mean, it is.
No, but it allows you not to go to work.
That's very true. That's very true. And I should point out, I haven't actually had a job since I worked at McDonald's when I was 19. I've managed to scrape by on my writing since then. But
where you were still making more than Faber were.
Exactly. But it is. I mean, it's incredible. So I've sold 1 million books nearly in 3 years with Kett, which vastly outsells anything else I've ever written.
Even so 1 million books at even £1,
yeah,
in your pocket is good numbers.
It's incredible numbers
that most traditionally published authors could only dream of.
Yeah, unless you get one of the big advances, and the only way you're getting a big advance these days is if you're a celebrity. Or so it seems. I mean, there are instances, I think, and I don't follow the publishing trade like I used to. I used to be a hawk. I used to read the bookseller because I think part of me was like, how do I get this? And I've had some brilliant publishing deals for the traditionally published books. I got really lucky. I had an amazing agent and some great American deals. So I'm not complaining at all. But I think Amazon. I think it's such a gamble. That's it with traditional publishing. It feels like you throw your work out there, and you could get a £500,000 advance, as I know some people have. You could get a £1,000 advance, as I know some people have. And this is a £1,000 advance for a book you spent 2 years writing. With Amazon, it's more like a job, and it's more like an even playing field. Everyone has their books on there if they want. But
everybody wins.
Yeah, I feel it's definitely more a case of everybody wins because it's about being able to reach your readers in the way that you want to. It's having that direct contact with readers, which is invaluable. You don't have to go through a bookshop. You don't have to rely on a bookshop stocking your books. My books were hardly ever stocked over here in the UK. And
my phone goes ping, and it goes, "Hey, we thought you'd like to know. There's a new Kett book out." And I go, "Thanks very much." Press that button. Here, Alex, have my £3.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Everybody's happy.
Yeah.
It's bizarre.
It is. I mean, it has completely. I mean, it's been around for a while now, obviously, but it has revolutionized. I've made up a word. That's how awesome it is.
Write it down.
Revolutionized how people distribute their books and how they find readers and how they connect with readers. And I feel like I have much more of a relationship with readers now because it's so much more immediate. You don't have that kind of gateway of a publisher. That gatekeeper saying, actually, we'd rather you did it like this. Yeah, I'm still trying to get my head around it. And every day I kind of wake up and think, is this real? Is this something I've dreamed up in some kind of feverish state?
Well, I guess the flip side is, actually, it's not a flip side because I know that traditional authors don't do it anymore either. But things like book signings, readings, you arrange them yourself if you do them at all?
Oh, you always arrange them yourself. I mean, this is.
It's not a thing you get with traditional anymore. They're like, they do the numbers, and now you want a hotel, and there'll be catering, and it's my ass, right?
I did have a couple of good tours that my publisher put on for me, but when to go back to the inventors again, just for this kind of comparison, I said to them, I'm going to do some school events. I'm going to go into schools, talk about the book. Can I maybe get some bookmarks? Can I get some fun torches? Say we can use them in the prison. Can I get some prison tattoos that people, fake tattoos? And they said, yeah, of course you can. I was like, great. And they said, oh, yeah, you're paying for them. We don't have a marketing budget. And that was always, she said, we don't have the budget to market your book. Barry always says this, publishing is the only industry in the world that will make a product and not tell anyone about it. And it really did feel like that.
Very strange, isn't it? You never see
no,
or hardly ever, they're like hen's teeth, an advert for a book, the new Stephen King.
Exactly. The ones that don't need it. Yeah, it is really weird. But yeah, so all those things, I spent my entire advance for that book on marketing stuff, which was brilliant because it really got kids to remember the books when I did signings and went into schools and did the occasional tour. But so publishing always says we'll market your book for you, and they don't really do it. So now that you're an independent, or now that I'm an independent, I can market it how I want. So if I want to take out an advert in the bookseller, I can. If I want to take out adverts in local press, I can. So a lot of that money does go back into advertising, mainly through Facebook and through Amazon itself. But you can control it, which is the defining factor. It's all up to you, and you don't have to rely on a publisher that's got maybe 3,000 other titles this year. So the
Facebook model is how much do you want to spend? £400 this week.
Yeah,
knock yourselves out and do whatever Facebook does. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it just means people, when they're scrolling through their feeds, they'll suddenly see your book cover come up, and they'll think, I'll just have a look. And they click through and they have a look, and some people buy it, some people don't. I got booted off Facebook about 6 months ago for violating one of their advertising rules that they never told me what the rule was. And they've had me in review for 6 months. So I don't advertise on Facebook ananymore, but I do advertise on Amazon. So every time someone types in crime thriller, say on Amazon, hopefully somewhere down that line, my book will pop up. Doesn't always happen. You've got a lot of competition.
yeah, there is. There's an awful, especially Scotland seems to be the crime capital of the entire universe.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Wow, another Scottish one?
I know.
Is there anyone left?
How many poor people have been murdered in Scotland? That was one of the reasons I was a bit nervous about setting a crime series in Norwich. Definitely not the crime, the crime center of the universe, especially the kind of crimes that Kett deals with. Certainly not Scotland.
That's one of the. I think that's where you win over some of your contemporaries, is that you can tell your reading background from your plots, I think, especially with
interesting.
Especially with King Rat.
Yes,
which I came to and went, he's lost it this time, and it just went 0 to 60. Go.
Yeah.
What the hell is going on here? So entertaining.
Thank you.
Really good read. But then you brought it square right back in. What's the last one called?
Knucklebones. Yeah.
And it went right straight back into shape.
Yeah.
Superb.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was King Rat was always going to be. It was almost. I did consider that maybe that was going to be the last one ever, and the way that obviously no spoilers. The way that King Rat ends felt like it could have quite easily been the kind of last one, but it's really weird that I've got so attached to these characters in a way that I maybe with some of the kids' books, especially the Furnace series, I was very attached to the main characters in that. But this feels different. These guys feel like family. And the thought of not writing another one actually felt quite traumatic. It felt like I would be saying goodbye. So I went straight back in and started writing Knucklebones, and I'm nearly finished the next one, which is called Lucky Number 7, because it's almost like I kind of need these guys now to get me through life because they're family, and it's an odd sensation.
There's a guy. What the hell is his name? It's something like, is it Dean Stanley Gardner or Dean Stanley Smith? He's hardcore pulp author.
Oh, okay.
And he has this thing called, like, if you want to be a pulp writer, which I kind of say you and Kirk and all the rest of them, I kind of say you are.
Yeah, I would say. Mm-hmm.
But not in the same, I don't mean it in that derogatory.
Not disposable.
Throw away.
No. Mm-hmm.
But you put books out to read.
Yeah.
That's pulp.
Yeah.
He's a hardcore pulp writer, and he's got this thing of, I think pulp speed 1 is 800,000 words a year, and it goes all the way up to pulp speed 6, which is something like 8 million words a year.
Oh my God.
And he's like, you're a writer, 8 hours, you sit there and you bleed onto the page.
Well,
I've never read anything he's written.
It might be awful.
But the idea is fascinating.
Yeah.
It's proper old school.
It is. And I know Dave Gatwood, who writes the Grimm books, he's aiming, I'm sure he's told me he's aiming for 6 books a year. And he's brilliant. He's a brilliant writer. Absolutely brilliant. His plots are brilliant. His characters are fantastic. And how he keeps that going is a mystery even to me. And I do consider myself a quick writer. So I maybe write 300,000 to 400,000 words a year at the moment. And it is a lot. It is, and it's exhausting. And I think I don't know whether the difference for me is because I don't plot, everything's in your head. So actually that is a lot of emotional baggage to carry around for the time frame that you're writing the book. And in fact, the longer time frame of writing a series. So when I'm writing a book, I have to carry it all with me. I don't even make notes, about what's happening in the chapters. I just sit down and it almost like dump out of my head. And it does create this kind of, I don't know what the right word for it is, but it's actually in a way kind of a bit traumatic to carry all of that story in your head for so long, and then get it out on paper and then move straight on to the next one. So I was finding for me, it was actually not a great thing to try and put that much pressure on. So I deliberately dialed back and said 3 a year is fine. And and that is fine for me. I think I could push myself again to try and speed up, but I feel like I'd end up like curled up in a corner for 12 months.
But the other responsibility, of course, that comes with being independent is your own quality control.
Very true.
And you care about the books, obviously, because I'm still here reading.
Yeah.
You know, no one's done a, dear me, it's gone off the boil. I'm still with you. And there's a responsibility there.
Yeah.
To be good.
Yeah.
And you're the only person checking it out. Although I'm sure readers would let you know.
Yeah. I mean, I have an editor, Hannah. She's brilliant. I think she would let me know if the book didn't feel right. But you have an instinctive feeling of whether the book fits the rest of the series and whether it's a good book. And we all. This is one of the things we always talk about is we think, I've just finished my latest book and I feel like it's rubbish. No one's going to like it. We all do exactly the same. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I've forgotten how to write. And I think so. We do have that pressure of writing something that, and we do. I mean, there is nothing better than people liking the book. And that relief that you get when suddenly you get the first few reviews through and the first few messages saying this was brilliant or I loved it. And, or even like, it wasn't my favorite, but it's really good to see the team back together, even things like that. And it's a huge kind of boost. And this is what I was talking about earlier, that relationship I have with readers now is so much more immediate because we've got these Facebook channels and suddenly you see people writing to you, which I never had before, sending messages, and they're great. They leave suggestions. Can such and such happen to this person? Could these two people maybe get together? And and so you kind of take it on board, and it's almost like this organic process where your readers help you write the next book. It's a really lovely feeling, actually.
Life would have been strange, wouldn't it, if you'd had that kind of access to Barker and Herbert and King.
Yeah. Can you imagine? I mean, I think I did write to Clive Barker once, but obviously never heard anything back. I probably didn't send it to the right address. I think I sent it to his fan club. So, but yeah, can you imagine? I don't know. I mean, I know King is very active now on Twitter. I'm not on Twitter, but I see sort of retweets and things of his tweets, and he's very generous with his fans. I think probably Clive Barker is too, but in different ways. But I can't imagine having just tweeting Stephen King back when I was a teenager and getting a reply. It's weird, isn't it? Because they're almost godlike, aren't they? The old school authors. Yeah. They don't feel like real people.
I mean, a lot of things are strange. I know. I don't know well, but I know Phil Rickman.
Oh yeah,
I've interviewed Phil a couple of times, and I know he struggled with his series because the books, the publishers want to label it as horror.
Right,
and he's like, it's a crime book.
Yeah,
no, and then I mean it's a bit like trying to find the last great rock band that came around, and you kind of get the last great one that was massive. Probably the Foo Fighters and what's that, mid-90s. Mm-hmm. And like the last great British published crime author is probably Billingham.
Yeah.
And that's a long time ago.
Yeah. I've never actually read, to my shame, any Billingham. I know he's just brought out a new book, isn't he? But,
very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
I've heard of, obviously, he's got an army of fans, hasn't he?
Nice bloke too.
Oh, is he? Oh, cool.
Yeah, very, very.
Makes a difference, doesn't it?
Actually, it does. Yeah, I can't remember where I was going with that now.
Idea that these rock star authors.
I grew up on same as you, but I had this other life where I was reading, as you probably did, Ed McBain,
right?
Ricky Spillane. I was so deep in with crime, and your stuff sits really well with it. It's.
Oh, thank you.
I'm not blowing smoke. Honest,
I'll take it.
I really enjoy the Kett books.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. In that same way that I did McBain, and I don't think that's a small feat, to be honest.
No, well, it's amazing for me to hear that because I never had that addiction to crime. I mean, I think I read one Ruth Rendell, and I read the Sherlock Holmes, but I don't think I've ever read another crime book. Certainly, I didn't before I started reading Kett. So I didn't have any clue really what I was doing.
Yeah.
But I had that kind of horror sensibility.
They're not so far removed in their plotting structures, are they?
No. And there was a time actually, especially with Three Little Pigs, where Kett almost veered into the supernatural. And I had to kind of force myself to pull it back because I thought people aren't going to like it. And I'm glad I did, because I think it would have completely destroyed that core of the Kett books. But I think my instinct is always telling me to pull it towards the supernatural, and because that's kind of what I grew up on. Like you say, that those reading origins, But yeah, I've started to read a lot more crime now because I feel like I never thought I'd enjoy it too much because I always felt like crime would be the book I wanted to read, but not the book because it didn't have horror in it. It wouldn't have that supernatural element. But now I'm reading a lot more crime and just enjoying it for that fast paced, action.
Well, the weird thing about crime is, as a reader, I think to get it right, the crime is incidental to the characters you've created.
Yeah.
Kett is very likable with his family.
Yeah.
Grim is like a fish out of water.
Yeah.
Kirk's characters are just excellent. Logan is a law unto himself.
Yeah.
And you've created these little worlds, and I really like Kett's. It's the family, as you said in your email to me, his kids are your kids.
Yeah.
Man, that's like an eighth of the book.
Yeah.
Already written for you, right?
Yeah, that's so true. I'm forever jotting things down. Even today, my older daughter, as I was saying briefly before we started, she threw a plate at the bifold doors and smashed them, and it's just things like that. It's very much that all gets fed, and in a way, it's kind of a therapy for me. And I kind of wonder if maybe that's how the book started a bit. It's because I had all this stuff in my head with the kids. My kids are quite intense. I'm sure all parents say that, but they are quite intense. The older one's autistic, the younger two are feral. So I think maybe I had all this, and I saw it in a review once. Alex Smith obviously has issues he wants to work through with his kids, and he's doing it through the books. And I thought, actually, you're probably right. But it's great because you pack it all in the books, and by doing it, you unpack it from your head. So Kett dealing with his children is very much me kind of processing a lot of the stuff with my kids. And I love writing those books, those bits in the books where the kids kind of shine through. But you're absolutely right about it's a soap opera, and the crime is very much second to seeing where the team goes. So the crime could be anything. It doesn't really matter. You're following these people that you've come to love.
But the kids also bolt it to the floor for you.
Yeah.
Because he always goes home. Or
he does.
He always tries to go home.
Yeah, he does. Sometimes he doesn't want to go home. But yeah, it's true. He's got his roots and they're really strong. And actually, this is something I don't always like about crime fiction. It's that kind of cliche of a jaded, divorced detective who doesn't necessarily have those roots. And so it was really important for me when I was writing Kett that he had a really strong family. And of course, his family was fractured in the first one because his wife's been kidnapped. He doesn't know where she is for the first, 3 books, really. But it was really important that he had that connection to his kids. And like you say, that is a really interesting phrase you use, but it's so right. He's bolted to the floor. So whatever happens, he can come back to them and he can leave that kind of world, that world of crime behind him. But in the second part of that is that he has to be a good guy. He has to be a nice guy. There's not much about Kett he is aggressive. He's got his, when it comes to it, he'll break the rules. He'll go off on his own path.
Do a bit Jack Reacher.
Exactly. He does a bit of, no, I am actually, that is one book I do love, the Jack Reachers. That kind of righteous carnage is one of my absolute favorite things in any story. So that's I love writing those bits, but at his heart, he's a good man. Yeah. And that was really important to me.
Success.
No, thank you.
Tell me about audiobooks. Seem to have come hand in hand.
Yeah.
With indie publishing now, and who would have thought?
It's odd, isn't it?
As an indie, you could go audio. I mean, I listen to a fair few. I don't think I've listened to any of yours.
No,
I've done a few of the Grimm ones because I was doing some gardening one day, and I'm really into this, so I'll just buy it as well and just carry on while I'm doing it. Yeah. But they're top level. They're not amateur affairs.
And actually nothing to do with, I don't think nothing to do with the author, but very much to do with the narrators. So I use a guy called Tim Bruce, who's brilliant. The trouble with Tim is he can't keep up with the writing. So he's on book 6 at the moment. I'm about to release book 13. So it's a case of, but actually, other people have managed to find narrators that can kind of keep up with their 3-4 books a year. I think again, it's about that reach, about reaching readers in a way that people want to read books. If you're a traditionally published author, you'd have no say at all in your audiobook. I mean, you'll publish a book, and maybe 3, 4, 6, 12 months later, your publisher will send you an email saying, "Oh, we've got some interest from an audiobook," because they've seen your book, wherever. Is it all right if we turn it into an audiobook? You say yes. 3, 6, 12 months after that, you suddenly get an audiobook. And now it's like, it's totally up to us. If you want to, you can release your audiobook at the same time as you release your paper book and your Kindle book, and suddenly you've got 3 different ways of reaching readers. And it is all about giving readers what they want and giving them the books they want in the formats that they want. So much easier to do now.
We're very demanding as readers, I think.
And so you should be. I mean, I'm a reader myself, and I feel like I'm demanding. I think readers have the right to be demanding and to find books that they love, and books that can come out in a when they want them to come out. And
yeah,
it's good.
Do you think? And this thought has just popped into my head. Do you think that AI will play a role in audiobook I mean, the AI narrated YouTube videos that you see.
Yeah.
I watched a Godzilla Kong trailer yesterday for number 2, and that was narrated by AI.
Oh wow,
God, this is awful. But I can see, conjuring up some kind of AI bot that reads like Sean Barrett, and away you go.
That's very true. You probably will have the option, won't you? You'll probably be able to say,
yes,
I want this book to be read in the voice of such and such, and a computer will give it to you. It's a terrifying prospect.
For free.
Because, for free. But of course, how many narrators are suddenly going to go out of business? How many illustrators have already gone out of business because suddenly people don't need them to do their book covers? They don't need them to. I mean, guilty of that myself. I was messing around on Facebook this week and on what was it called? Mid Valley. I can't remember the
another one.
AI program, just to get a sense of what the Kett characters would look like. And I typed their descriptions into this AI engine and got 4 photographs back of Kett and the team, and actually quite close to the way that I'd see them in my head, and actually uncannily close.
Put them online. That's a blog post right there.
Yeah, it's all on my Facebook, and I should put it on my website. But before, if I'd wanted that, I'd have had to go to a photographer and paid them a couple of £100 and maybe paid a couple of models. And that's people's livelihoods. And the same with illustrations. You're suddenly seeing people's jobs going. And there's a big conversation at the moment about how AI is going to affect a writer's job, because suddenly, you've got a program that can generate a book in seconds.
I don't think. No, I don't know. I think readers are more loyal than that.
I hope so, and I think they will remain loyal to the readers that they know. But I feel like for people who are going to start, if my kids want to be writers in maybe 15, 20 years' time, they're going to be facing an AI engine that is infinitely more powerful than the one we've got now, and very, very difficult, I think, to be able to differentiate between a book that's written by AI and a book that's written by a person. And it puts us in a really difficult position as readers, if we can't tell the difference between who's producing what. I think readers will always remain loyal to the writers that they know now, but I think the future is going to be a very different place. I mean, we had the head of the studios are now saying that 100% AI generated films are right around the corner. You can type in, you can go to your streamer service and say, I want a Marvel movie featuring Spider-Man and Iron Man fighting such and such. And, in a very short amount of time, maybe hours, maybe minutes, you'll suddenly get a fully fledged 2-hour movie that's catered to everything you want. And I can't see it being any different for books either. It is a real, I don't know. It's not the future that people have envisaged, is it? AI.
Well, I mean, it's already here. I did. There's a movie on. What's it on? It's on ITV Player or ITVX, whatever it's called British Bulldogs.
Oh, okay.
And it's about the old breed of stuntmen.
Oh, right.
It's great I really love stuntmen and all that stuff. But towards the end, they're kind of like, well, now you don't even use a horse. It's CGI.
Really?
When you fall about 6 inches.
Oh.
Onto a cushion. You're not falling like hundreds of feet like you used to. It's just remapped. So much like the music business, we've built this monster ourselves.
Yeah.
And by you and me going and playing on these AI things, we're teaching them.
I know. That's the scary thing. That's the scary thing, isn't
We're
it?
all
We are actually
complicit.
helping this thing. It is. I know. I mean, my dad actually taught AI at university. He was a lecturer in kind of artificial algorithms and things. And he's very much of the opinion that AI can be a very positive thing. And I think it will be. I think as long as it doesn't kill us, it will end up being a hugely positive thing in the fields of medicine and exploration and engineering. It'll make life a lot easier. But I feel like with the creative stuff, it's different. I feel like there should be some kind of regulation. I think the arts are how human beings express themselves, they're how we share stories, they're how we interact with each other. These stories make us who we are. And I feel like if we're going to be robbed of that, it's going to put us in a very bleak place.
But the rebel in me also thinks maybe it wouldn't be such a bad thing for Hollywood and the big four publishers and all the record companies to have the rug pulled out from under them.
That's very true. Yeah.
And we all exist on this indie level where we're all, so long as you're feeding your family.
Yeah.
What the hell, eh?
That's true. And
how many more readers do you want?
Yeah. And I totally agree with that. The indie all the way for me. But I'd rather have an indie that was populated by real people than by Googlebot. And and I think I do worry that actually people won't be able to feed their families. That is the danger. But I don't want to be too bleak about it, because I feel like maybe there is a compromise somewhere, and maybe the thing will be that actually computers can't tell a story the way that people can, because people have had 200,000 years of kind of
the odds
together.
on an AI dreaming up a scenario in which a copper's wife gets kidnapped by a man wearing a pig head are probably on the outskirts of what.
Hopefully. That's true. And actually, it's like you say, I mean, the weird thing is that AI will have probably read my books by now, and will incorporate those ideas along with the other millions of books it's read into trying to recreate those exact scenarios. Because, like you say, they learn from everything we do. It's fascinating. I think it's a story in itself. But yeah, I mean, it's suddenly reached a sort of this precipice, hasn't it? It's been kind of bubbling along for ages, and suddenly it's hit the news, and
Well, we're all talking about it.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, though. Mm-hmm. Tell me about what's this I found here? The Devil's Engine.
Oh, well, that's just one of the books I wrote for teenagers.
Right.
So I wrote 3 horror series for teenagers after The Inventors. The first one was Escape from Furnace, which was a story about a boy who gets sent to a prison for young offenders that's buried a mile beneath the ground. That was a 5-book series. Then I wrote a book called The Fury, which was like a zombie story, but with a twist that the thing that turned people into zombies wasn't a plague or anything. It was you. If you went near anyone.
That's the thing I can see on the shelf over your left shoulder.
Oh, it is. Yeah, these are all mine. Yeah. So you, by going near somebody, you would turn them feral, and all they wanted to do was kill you. But as soon as you got away, they'd go back to normal. And then so that was The Fury. And then The Devil's Engine was like a twist on the story of of Faust. So they find an engine beneath the streets of Prague it's so old, nobody knows what it is, but it's made up of billions of moving parts. And they realize that if you can make a deal with this engine, it was built by the devil, you can make a deal for anything you want. But after 666 hours, it will send its demons to kind of come and collect your soul. And that was a 3-book series about 2 groups that use this engine to wage war on each other. It was a bit of fun. It's a bit of comedy, a bit of kind of a lot of action and a lot of horror. That was the closest thing I got to like a proper splatter horror series for teenagers. Very violent. I don't know how I got away with half the stuff in there that I did, but
and is that are they through? Are you still indie on that front as well?
No, they were all traditionally published. So they were published by Macmillan in the States, and Faber over here. Although Faber never picked up The Devil's Engine because it was very American. And The Devil's Engine was great, but this is, I mean, I got a really good advance from that, from amazing. My publishing house, the publishing house that published it, Macmillan, they were brilliant. I had the best editor there, Wes. He was fantastic. He supported me so much. They gave me a 6-figure advance for that, which was, unbelievable for me at the time. And the series bombed. Completely bombed. I think partly because they were called Hellraisers, Hellwalkers, and Hellfighters.
Yeah.
And so so all my books that were in all the schools, because the Furnace series went into all the schools, no schools would touch it because suddenly you've got hell in the title, and this big swathe of America won't even let you say hell. And so
there's a lesson for people writing for
absolutely don't put hell in your titles. Yeah. And it was a gamble, and it didn't pay off at all. And yeah, really disappointingly, it bombed. And Macmillan basically said to me, "That's it. You've had your shot."
And you said you don't want this money back, do you?
No. Well, that's the beauty of an advance, is you don't have to pay it back. And I was heartbroken actually because I'd rather have just taken a tiny advance and let the series bubble out, and then had another go with another series. And it felt really unfair. And I know a few authors have felt the same, that the big advance isn't actually always a great thing because it puts so much pressure on you. And suddenly you find yourself in a hole that nobody really wants to dig you out of. So it was really upsetting. But it did teach me, I think, that indie is best because, if you end up in a hole there, you can relaunch as many times as you want. It's all up to you. It's, everything's off your own back. And it feels like it just feels like a better way of doing it for me. I'm not dissing traditional publishing.
No. I guess there's an art to that too. I guess you and the other guys regularly kind of go, how do you do this? How do you do it?
Yeah, we do. And
so
Barry
you've
and
got
Dave,
like a little, like one of those network business clubs.
Yeah, we do. I mean, a lot more moaning, I think, on our WhatsApp. But Barry and Dave both came from traditional publishers as well. So that's how we all met. We all met years and years ago, writing kids' books or books for teenagers. So we all went through exactly the same process. We've all got exactly the same complaints. And we've all sort of followed that same kind of trajectory into indie publishing. But yeah, we're definitely a support group for each other on there. But it is, I mean, it's very, because it's not new, but for us it's new. So yeah, we often are figuring things out on the go, which keeps it exciting, I guess. I mean, there's something really nice about exploring new territory.
Excellent. Did I miss anything? What
there's probably loads. But no, I think we've covered the main ground.
The Kett is awesome, and people should be buying Kett books. Like,
well, thank you.
Like, I don't know. They're just there to be enjoyed.
I think that's it.
Really,
do you know? I think that's exactly it. I think before I was writing books because I felt they were the kind of books that publishers would want. Yeah. Now I'm writing books that I know readers will like, or that, I hope readers will like. I don't know, don't know everyone like them, but I feel like I'm writing books that I love to write. And that's, but
you'd soon find out, right? Because you must have live figures.
Oh yeah, immediate, updated every second.
What have I done wrong this time?
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Why is there a glitch?
Yeah, yeah. You spend far too much time looking at your figures.
Oh yeah, we used to have it with magazines with the well, you know it as well. As soon as you gun the barcode in Smiths, it triggers a thing that then goes 1.
Yeah, and you're waiting for number 2.
Yeah, why isn't anyone else buying this today? Yeah. What have I done wrong?
I know. It is terrifying, and I feel like with every book, I've forgotten how to do it. But no, I think it's definitely taught me that if you write a book that you enjoy writing, and purely for the fun of it, it's a book that other people will enjoy purely for the fun of it too. And I think that's been a really valuable lesson, actually.
Excellent. Listen, thanks for your time.
It's been a real pleasure. It's been so lovely talking to you, and I could go on for hours. We'll have to do a
so could I. I'm not quite approaching Joe Rogan levels of podcasting just yet.
No,
it's a lot. I think it'd be a lot easier if you were in a studio together. And
that's true. That's true.
Here we go fast.
Next time,
in our dungeons. Next time, we'll do it again after a couple more books. That would be great.
That's a deal.
Alrighty.
I'm in.
I'll let you go back to your children.
Yeah. Oh no, don't. I'm only kidding. I love them to bits.
Please keep talking.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's been great. Cheers, buddy. See you soon.